Hello everyone. I guess there aren't any participants. Today is my live session, and this is my last live session before the exams. So if there are anyone who have anything to ask or they have any queries, questions, they are free to discuss here in this forum. And for the time being, today I will talk about policy process, the entire, again, I will discuss about how policy are formulated and what are the important aspect of policy. Very briefly, I would be talking about this. So what is the process? What is the procedure? And if you talk about in policy formulation, no, it is again a continuous process and it would not come to an end once policy has been approved or adopted, because it consists of various stages. There are certain activity associated with the policy, like implementation, formulation, evaluation. And Birkeland observes that a policy process is a system which translates policy ideas into formulation, implementation, evaluating actual policies which are implemented and would have a positive effect, right? So it is the importance of formulating a policy is it that it acts as the formal expression of any establishments or organizations' intentions and goals, or the government's goal, and what should be done in order to achieve these goals. So this is very important, that why it is important, and it is a phase. It is an important phase which is devoted in generating options about what to do about a public problem, and is inherent in to most, if not all, forms of policy making. So particularly, if we can say that policy formulation is a process of identifying and addressing possible solutions to policy problems, exploring the various options of alternatives available for addressing a problem, developing using policy formulation tools, which is a vital part of the entire process. And when you talk about the tools, this includes forecasting and exploring future problems through the use of scenarios, tools for identifying and recommending policy options, like, for example, cost benefit, cost effectiveness, and tools for exploring problem structuring or framing. Through brainstorming, through boundary analysis, we can explore certain problems. So this is a stage of policy process in which options might help to resolve issues, and the problems recognized at the agenda setting stage are also identified, refined, appraised, and formalized. So the process of identifying and comparing alternative action is set to shape the subsequent stage, that is of the decision making. And during the formulation stage, policy analysts will typically have to confront trade-offs between legitimate public demands for action and the political, technical, and financial capabilities to address them. So the concept of policy formulation refers to the process of identifying courses of action, often called alternatives or options, to resolve a problem of a particular nation, right? And in fact, if we look into this, the idea of formulating a policy, it comes from the policy demands, which claims for an action to be taken. And these actors could be citizens, customers, civil society, okay? And in fact, the number of potentially, if I talk about the tools, there are, has expanded massively, and there are various ways of, understanding how policies could be made and formulated. So it is a critical phase that of policy process formulation, and the success and failure of a policy largely depends upon the design, policy design, and the process. So it involves the process of identifying and crafting a set of alternatives to address a problem, and also to narrow down the alternatives to arrive at a final policy decisions. And according to Cochrane and Malone, policy formulation takes up the what questions. What is the plan for dealing with the problem? What are the goals and priorities? What options are available to achieve those goals? what are the costs and benefits of each of the options, what externalities, positive or negative, are associated. And as it has been put up by Thomas Dye, policy formulation takes place in the government bureaucracy, interest group offices, in legislative committee rooms, meetings of special commissions, and so on. Now, it is generally recognized that the policy formulation is a critically important but relatively inscrutable stage of the policy process, with many different actors interacting, often under intense and focused political pressure from special advisors, based as well as interest group. So the actors involved in policy making are often said to constitute a policy advisory system comprising of decision makers, that would be chiefly politicians, then knowledge producers and providers. Then it has also been said that it usually occurs in the, if we talk about the forces in the policy formulation process, it is in their two channels, the formal channels and the informal channels. So the informal channels would include the informal channels. एक minute. So they are formal and informal channels. These are act as the forces in the policy formulation process. The formal channels would include legislative, executive, and political wings of the government, and the informal channels of policy formulation will include, individual citizens, political parties, pressure groups, civil society organizations, media. Whereas the formal channels, constitutional framework, parliamentary system, federalism, legislative, executive, legislature, cabinet and cabinet ministers, NDC, National Development Council, Planning Commission, and now Niti Aayog, civil servants, judiciary. Okay. There are certain techniques of policy formulation. These are the cost benefit analysis, economic forecasting, operations research and system analysis, and the PPBS approach. The cost benefit analysis is one of the very useful technique which is used in the fields of economics, mathematics, statistics, operations research, and this is of great help to policy makers while framing policies specific to a particular category or to a particular group. And the cost of a policy or the program, it sets against the benefits it can offer to that women or to any such group. So the potential benefit of the policy is calculated, right? Then economic forecasting is also done to understand that what is the, in terms of how it is going to affect the economy, what benefits it is going to have, or rather it plays a strategic role in the economic policies, and it would be very effective in creating economic policies, right? Then there are certain models of policy formulation, the rational model, the incremental model, group theory model, elite theory model, institutional model, game theory model, and systems model. This is all important part of models. And then we'll come to the policy formulation process. The policy formulation process comprises several components, right? And each impacting heavily on overall policy performance, like conceptualization from starts with the conceptualization of the problem till the evaluation part of it. As Thomas Dye has set out the following stages in the analysis of the policy process. Policy identification is there. Policy identification is there, agenda setting, policy formulation, policy legitimation, policy implementation, and then you have policy formulation. There are certain steps in policy formulation. First is identifying underlying problem. This is again important that first you need to understand what are the issues, the problem for an analytical approach. I thought that somebody might come. I hope it is. So it is about identifying underlying problem. The first is for an analytical approach. The first step in the policy formulation is to identify whether and why there is a problem, defining the problem, which involves moving from mundane descriptions to a more abstract conceptual plane. Attempts is made to diagnose, the form of market failure, what is, and then an example. So uh, it is often important to understand while identifying the problems and so that the objectives could be created, objectives could be made to tackle those issues. There has to be a clarity in the objectives. Then secondly, determining policy alternatives. The next step is to determine the alternative course of actions. It is important in what kind of intervention has to be taken, whether it would be a positive one, it would be a more feasible and positive. Then forecasting and evaluating alternatives. Forecasting and evaluating alternatives, having identified the underlying problem and having determined the alternatives for policy choice, the policy analyst evaluates the consequences of each alternatives. He will then turn to relevant model for forecasting consequences. Then you talk about the policy selection. The next step is in the analysis is to make preferred choice, that is the preferred course of action. The situation may be simple for the policymaker, and you can simply look at the consequences and predict it for each alternative and select the one which is considered to be the most best. Then we talk about the policy implementation. Once the policy has been selected, then the final analysis, the success of public administration can be measured in terms of in relation to the implementation of policies. The policy implementation is again of critical importance to the success of government. Then policy monitoring, it is equally important that how that the policy is being constantly being monitored during the implementation level of it. It is a subset of implementation process. It is an activity which occurs in the course of implementing a policy, and it is the process of monitoring that the implementer actually gets to being seen the results of policy. The objective of policy monitoring is to ensure through the policy implementation process that the resources inputs are used efficiently as possible to yield intended results. Then policy outcome, and is again important, and the next stage of the policy cycle is the policy outcome, and these are different from policy output. Policy outputs are the actual decision of the implementers, whereas no, outcome is what you need to understand, or rather, when you talk about the policy, the outcome, the outcome of the concept of outcome-based research, what actually happens to the target group intended to be affected by the policies. If the intended changes or the target groups do not occur, something is wrong. Okay. Then evaluation, again, policy evaluation, the final stage in the policy process is the evaluation part, and it is the sequential pattern of activities. While evaluating, it is concerned with what happens once the policy has to put into effect, and then design of evaluation, that what kind of policy design would be there in order to ensure that the policies are effectively evaluated to see the pros and cons, how successful it has been. If it has been a success, then it could be replicated in other parts of the country. If there is a failure, then one could analyze it. What has resulted in the failure of a policy, then further probing into the system, probing and analyzing that why it has been a failure, and so on and so forth. So it is very important to see that how this is the way of understanding the policy part of it in the process of policy formulation. Then there are certain elements of policy climate. There is a political environment. This political environment, it consists of political institutions, actors, as well as processes that affects the formulation and implementation of policies. And this environment shapes how policies are crafted, debated, enacted, influencing the effectiveness and direction of social policies. So political environment is very important because it gives rather, it talks about the political structure and how the policies are taken into consideration. It provides a corrective measure for any kind of economic dislocations, and it forms a collective public action to improve the well-being of the population. Since the welfare state policy initiatives adopted across the global uh, areas and had established a safety net or residual function during the periods of high economic growth, when resources can be distributed to prevent any kind of social dislocation. So policies are important, and there are certain ways to approaches to understand the politics of social policy. So understanding the politics of social policy involves examining how the governments, interest groups, individuals interact to shape policies that would address social issues like healthcare, welfare, housing, education. And the complexities of these policies arises from the intersection of diverse values, ideologies, economic constraints, and social needs. So the first comprises a body of political economy focused on varieties of welfare capitalism, and suggests that mode of capitalist development produce distinct set of choices about social policy provision. The second approach consists of studies commonly labeled as power resources theories. Third approach follows an institutional turn in bringing about, like in political sciences, focusing on the political institutions. Then to these three reasonably well-established approaches, fourth could be added the relatively autonomous role of political leaders or policy entrepreneurs. Then there are certain major approaches. And when you talk about, the cultural aspect of policy climate, and then how what will be the socioeconomic conditions, these are equally important because it is often taken into, the aspects of policy formulation, that political ideologies, budgetary interest groups, advocacy, all plays a very significant role in the process of because the legislature, the cabinets, the state government, boards, commissions, all are involved in the policy process. Okay, in my previous live sessions, I had discussed about various welfare measures. I have even spoken about, the idea of welfare state, how welfare state has come into existence, starting from very beginning, goals of social policies, the objectives of social policies, how it is affected then till date, what are the various, models, and even I have discussed about the various provisions, in terms of models, in terms of approaches to, and then at length and breadth also spoken about social services. I'll give a little brief about social services, that social services which prove aimed at improving the well-being of the individuals and communities, includes support for various challenges and social needs. It provides assistance and it promotes social inclusion, equity. It covers a range of services, including healthcare. So social services are also used to address the society's wide range of requirements, and there are ambulatory form. There are the various forms of social services are ambulatory form, residential form, and outreach form. These are important because they dwell deeper, they within the international recommendations, in understanding the health condition of the population, talking about the education system, work condition, employment, consumption and saving, transportation, food, housing, etc. So the relevance of social services in modern society, it promotes social economic equality. It ensure basic needs and human dignity. It also empowers individuals and communities. It protect and support vulnerable populations. It promote health and well-being, and it encourages social cohesion and unity. And it also addresses poverty, inequalities, supporting rapid urbanization, trying to facilitate digital inclusion and accessibility, responding to health and environmental challenges, ensuring social security in the informal economy, and advancing gender equality, women's empowerment. Okay, so the social services, particularly, it covers a broader category of public services which is provided in interest of the public, and the primary interest can be searched, through the public budgets, that how these services could be availed by the people, what would be the accessibility, outreach, right, of the population in order to get into these, or rather to avail the services. Then emphasizing the quality of social services, again, it is necessary within its purpose, that is to bring about social inclusion, then respecting individual needs, then guaranteeing a partner cooperation, equality in providing social services, and all. Right. So this is about the social services aspect. Then I have also spoken about in my previous lectures the economic policies, that how India's economic policy is, of course, intended to influence or control the behavior of economy. The effectiveness of any economic policies can be assessed in two ways: the positive and normative economics. The policy framework followed by excessive state intervention in market through a number of regulatory measures, controls, introduction of centralized planning, expansion of public investment in basic and key industries. These are all important part of it. Since economic policies, the aim of any economic policy, or particularly in India, is rapid economic growth, full employment, better distribution of income, human development and decent work, stability of prices and rates of foreign exchange, maintenance of fair competition, and avoidance of cyclical fluctuations. Economic objectives and policies of government would influence the growth prospects of countries, which have distributional implications and social consequences that shape the well-being of the people. Then, there's a need from some sort of government intervention in the form of economic policies and programs, in order to bring about a uniformity, in order to create competitions, and as well as understanding the market failures. Then state, through participation in the production activities, can give a direction to the resource allocation in more efficient manner, larger public interest. They are macroeconomic policies, and they are microeconomic policies. Macroeconomic policies are fiscal policy, monetary, commercial policies, whereas micro is industrial licensing, import export control, quota permit, competition. Okay. These, in fact, after the new economic policy of 1991 also talks about LPG, that is the liberalization and privatization and globalization. Okay. And it talks about in this economic policies has a lot of open avenues for other sectors as well. So I think I'm still waiting for someone to respond. Then I'll come briefly and talk about values and principles in social policies. Social policies in India are strategies and measures which is adopted by the government to improve the welfare of the citizens and address social challenges. There are certain, the relationship between principles and values are very closely interrelated. Social policies, they constitute expressions of good from an ethical, spiritual, or material perspective, which the authorities intend to pursue by projecting them as reference points for the appropriate construction and the orderly administration of social life. The values also demands the practice of fundamental principles of social life and personal ethical behavior, and that correspond uh, the certain part of it. क्या बात है? A principle is defined as a basic rule which sets the groundwork, regulates personal and social behavior, and the shaping of social policy is closely related to the overall principles, namely any valuable, good, spiritual functions which could act as a guiding factor in order to recognize the various aspects of a social group. And these principles are the operational projections and points of reference of the social system. And it also functions as models with the kind of intervention it is required. There are certain, in fact, and values are defined. Take your notebooks. Did you? देखूंगी मैं अब कब होगा. I know. Values deserve closer door as a beacon for guidelines, which is for us as well as others, and it is about what should be done and what should not should be done. And there are certain principles and values like solidarity. It implies a mutual cohesiveness amongst people, but among social groups. The principle of social solidarity is stating the need for the existence of assistance and support. Then subsidiarity, it means to assist, provide support in the state of need who requires help. And it describes a fundamental operational principle of society in regard to self-determination, taking responsibility and developing personal skills by each individual member. Then the principle of personal responsibility means the obligation of a person to complete a task and to be held liable for it. Bearing the consequences for the poor management of the task of a breaching a moral obligation. Each person has the right to freely develop his personal skills, but at the same time, he's equally responsible and liable for each of his actions within the context of social normality. And this is so because social coexistence becomes possible through both personal as well as collective responsibility. Then social self-government, that is the classical principle of taking personal responsibility and collectivity on issues of collective actions and joint decision making up for the requirement for the operation of social life. In the context of social reality, social government, social self-government means that in the framework of the legally instituted obligations of the society in the state for covering material needs and at the same time the practice of personal responsibility, these obligations should be fulfilled by adhering to subsidiarity and solidarity behavior. Then regulatory conformity is the behavior of social group expects from individual belonging to it. As Robin Merton said, that conformity is one of the 5 major modes of adaptations to one social environment. Innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. Apart from conformity, the individual accepts the culturally defined goals as well as the socially defined means which are made available to him in order to achieve them. Then you have regulatory conformity, as again the behavior a social group expects from an individual belonging to it. Then we have equity and fairness. Social policy aims to ensure that all individuals have access to resources and opportunities, regardless of their background or circumstances. It should be designed to reduce disparities and promote social inclusion, ensuring that vulnerable and marginalized groups receive adequate support. Then social justice is rooted in the belief that all members of the society should be treated justly and with dignity, and with social inequalities should be addressed. Policies should be aimed to correct social injustices by redistributing resources, protecting rights, and promoting fairness in social and economic opportunities. Then human dignity and respect. Every individual is entitled to live with dignity and be treated with respect, regardless of the social economic status. In fact, social policies should protect and enhance human dignity, ensuring that all people have access to basic necessities such as healthcare, education, and housing. Then in universality again, individual families and communities are entitled to universal access to social programs and services. Universality with an awareness of equitable treatment affirms that historically oppressed groups are able to receive social services with the necessary support in place, and recognizes the structural reality of marginalization and discrimination in social system and work towards limiting its impact. Then it is about inclusiveness, ensures that all individuals and groups, especially those traditionally marginalized, are included in the benefits of social policies. Sustainability involves creating policies that not only addresses current need but also ensures that future generations can meet their own needs. Then empowerment again focuses on enabling individuals and communities to take control of their own lives and make decisions that affect their well-being. It should provide individuals and communities with tools, resources, and opportunities. Then relation interconnectedness and interdependence measures should consider the interdependence between people, and it would also consider how economic conditions have the potential to improve or impede societal outcomes. Then again, rights, which are rules and they can protect liberties or impose duties on the people. Then freedom involves individuals to make choices and pursue their goals without any interference. Responsiveness is there. The need emphasizes the need for social policies to be flexible and adaptable to the changing needs of society. It should be designed, policies should be designed in such a manner to respond to new challenges and emerging needs, ensuring that they remain relevant. And accountability and transparency are crucial for ensuring that social policies are implemented fairly and that policymakers are answerable to the public. It should be developed and executed in an open and transparent manner. Then participation in democracy emphasizes the importance of involving citizens in the policymaking process. It should encourage and facilitate active participation from all segments of societies, ensuring that policies reflect the diverse needs and preference of the population. Uh, these are the certain, principles and values of the policies. I think I have briefly explained certain points related to the policy, and I guess I would, since I was waiting and I think I was looking for participants, they should be there. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, all of you. Walaikum Salam. So I guess there aren't any participants, and I'll end this session of mine. Everyone, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone.